And then there's something that's been on my heart for a while. Me and my husband were having a really deep conversation about, purpose in life. Like if you go to college, did you actually become what you went to college for? And what, are you trying to better yourself? Are you trying to just progress in life and be a better person, or improve on what you know, or pursue your dream, or move up in the business that you're in? And so we were having like a conversation about that. And I asked him, well, I didn't go to school, What is, so, if, what would you say, which I already know the answer to this, but I want to know what he said. What would you say was the purpose then of my life? You're raising those kids. And it's true. It's true. I never doubted my purpose. I just want to know what he thought. In my day, giving you a little bit of backstory, I was born in the 60s. I was born to, Puerto Rican parents, very, very old fashioned. And basically, also, and I've done this myself. When you have your first child, that's where you usually make all your mistakes and you learn. And I've done the same thing. So my parents didn't. The only thing that my parents and like my grandmother that I adore and love with all my heart, who helped to raise me, not because my parents weren't there, but because she lived with us. There's still families that believe that you take care of your grandparents. You take care of your parents when they get old. You don't put them in homes. And so that's one of the wonderful things I loved about my father, was that he took care of my grandmother. So she was there for me. And, at first I resented it. And then when I became a parent myself, I appreciated her so much more. And I miss her so, so much. But let me get back on track. I don't want to cry. The way that I was raised in my day is a woman's place was in the home. A woman's place was to get married and have kids and take care of those kids and, cook and clean for her husband, That was the way that I was raised. But I grew up in a generation where a woman could become anything she wants, just like a man. And it was also the time of West Side Story, where minorities can't really make anything of their lives. That was the way of thinking back then, that wasn't for the minority people. Dreams and making something in life was not for the minority people. And so that's the era I grew up in. And I remember having dreams. I wanted to become a singer. And then I had a teacher that said I just wasn't good enough. And so, and he discouraged me from pursuing that and tried to get me into something else, and that didn't work out. Acting, actually, didn't work out. And I wish he just would have let me try out for singing, because there was a school, a talent school, I can't even remember, vocational high school, where you can go. Actually, it was a Fame, where Fame was based, the movie Fame, the 1971. I tried out for that school, but I wanted to try out as a singer, and my teacher was the drama teacher, and he discouraged me, said I wasn't going to try out for acting, and I was horrible. Not that I couldn't act, just that I froze, and it was not really the passion for me, because I heard a saying that if you go to work where you don't love, that's stress, but if you go to work for something you do love, then that's the, what you have a passion about, then it's. So it didn't work out. And, then I said, well, I want to be a vet. But, that was at the time that I found out about my father's affairs, and I was so messed up that I was cutting out from school. I couldn't concentrate on my work. I was failing. And so I really messed myself up into going to the vet high school. So basically, I was just unhappy. I was always unhappy growing up, and for many different reasons. And I guess, I guess all that was in my mind, because this is the way I was raised. It was just the way it was in those days. You know, my grandma, my parents was just, you just try to find a good man, you know, and you get married, and you just do the best that you can as a woman. And so I guess part of me, like, a man gets his worth from working and providing for his family, and it's a good man, because I know there's men that are irresponsible, don't care. But you know, I think a woman gets her worth in how, what I guess, a good wife and mother she is. And I'm, you know, this is back then. And so, married, horrible man, abusive, adulterous man, you know, had a baby, get divorced, and now I have to work. I have no choice. This man is not going to take care of me and the child. And I remember working, and I was just really, really miserable. I think I grew from the experience. Like, I worked for an accountant, so I learned how to budget. I worked in a bank with money. That was so stressful. And all I wanted to do was find a man. Because, you know, that's what was told to me. You find a good man, you get married, you know. And, you know, then I became a Christian, and all I ever wanted was to marry a good Christian man and be home to raise my kids. And I remember trying to get to college. So because all I was getting paid was minimum wage, and I knew if you went to college that you would get, you know, more money. You have, you know, more credentials behind you, you know. And I remember going to my father. I found a school that worked with that was for minorities, and it worked in helping them get a college degree. But because I was living with my father, I had to, like, get his signature or something, because it was state funded, and I wouldn't have to pay anything. But I needed my father to sign this paper because I was living with him, and he refused to do it. You know, for whatever reasons that he had. And so I didn't get to go to college. So, you know, go to church, you know, have a couple of relationships that didn't work out. And, you know, then I met my husband, my current and forever husband, as I always call him. And I felt like, you know, through all the trials and the errors, I felt like I was living my dream. We were involved in church, and I was singing. And that's really what was the dream I had. I might not have been getting paid for it financially, but I was getting paid in spades with satisfaction spiritually. It was just one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. To be able to sing for God. It was just one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life, and I did it together with my husband. It was like God put us together, and, you know, it was just awesome. And then, you know, we had our own 2 kids, and again, you know, that was a little rough, and, you know, bad things happened at the church, and a bunch of people left, including us. And now it was like, what's my purpose in life? You know, I tried Mary Kay, but when you have little babies, you little kids, little toddlers, that you just can't do it. I always believed, and this is one of the reasons why me and my husband were just so perfect for each other. He also always believed that when you have children, you raise them, not the babysitter. You raise them. And so with him being a maintenance, I know a lot of places don't do this, but in New York you get a free apartment, and they pay all your bills. And so it was a perfect situation where, you know, he worked and I could stay home. It's just really, I tried doing the work thing with a child, and let me tell you, that was one of the most, whenever she got sick, I would have to leave work. You know, I would have to make sure that I got her to school on time, or, you know, got her to daycare on time, got to my job on time, picked her up on time. It was really rough. You know, or have her in a daycare, you know, that was open till you got back. I mean, it was one of the hardest things in my life with my first child. And, you know, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to be able to take care of my child. And so to me, I was living the dream. I had a man, he was taking care of me. I had my children, I was singing. And I may not be able to be a vet, but, you know, I can have my own pets to love, because my pets are my babies. And after I had my other two kids, you know, I tried doing, like, I was doing Mary Kay, and it just was just for the three, I think it was for the year and a half I was doing Mary Kay. I also grew a lot during that experience, but I learned that my children have to be my priority. It was really rough because I had my oldest taking care of them. She resented it. You know, my husband was hardly ever home. Again, working long hours, being on call all the time, because when you're the maintenance guy, you know, you don't have to deal with the emergencies. So working was just not in the cards for me. My priority and my purpose in life were my children. If you are a mother and you're taking care of your children, don't ever let anyone tell you that you're not doing a job. They're your job. Raising decent human beings is a priority for me. I wasn't going to let my kids be one of those spoiled brats that you have now, letting the kids do whatever they want, or having the nanny babysit them, raising them her way. And at that time, a lot of the nannies were abusing the kids. That's when now they have the nanny cams. You know, you hear some horror stories about kids who were abused, killed by nannies. And when we left the church, I always knew my kids were my priority. They were little, but then, you know, found out that one of my children had disabilities and the other one was surpassed the other kids, and the way the school system worked just wasn't right for either of them. And so I heard about homeschooling, and that became my purpose. That was another fulfilling thing. That was one of the most fulfilling things in my life. I wasn't singing anymore. I might have lost that, but I realized what was more important than fulfilling my dream of a career, or because it wasn't a career, but doing what I loved the most, which was singing. That came second to raising my children, and that was my job, and that was my purpose. And
I appreciate my mom.
And I watched my children grow through homeschooling. It's not for everybody. Mostly the people I see do it have husbands that make good money. But in my situation, since we didn't have to pay all the bills, we didn't have to pay the rent, the money my husband made was enough for our needs, you know, gas for the car, insurance, and food, you know. Our needs were always met, and that's all I need. I always say, as long as you have a roof over your head and food in your belly, you're good. So homeschooling them, I mean, it was costly, but you know, it was just worth any sacrifice. And the only sacrifice really for me was financial. And then I found out about buying used, there was homeschool groups in North Carolina, used homeschool bookstore. So it was awesome to see my learning disabled child be able to read, be able to write, learn how to do numbers, basic, you know, arithmetic. That was one of the most satisfying, most fulfilling things of my life. And then, you know, my son was learning, and, you know, at 3 years old or 4, by 3 years old, he was able to read small words, 3-letter words, you know. And that was the most fulfilling things in my life. That was my purpose in life. That was my job. And I thought, well, you know, Stephanie will get better and Stephen will be such a brainiac genius that they're gonna, you know, they're gonna get a job and they're gonna take care of me one day. But, you know, as it turned out, both my children wound up, my daughter had disabilities, but by the time they were teenagers, she had academic disabilities and some, well, you know, learning disabilities. But when they both hit teenager, for some reason, then came the mental disabilities. And now that made homeschooling extremely difficult. My daughter, by the time she was 18, still could not pass 6th grade work. And then my son, His mental illness was worse than hers. They couldn't get his meds right, and that made homeschooling extremely difficult. But I stuck it out. But when your children have disabilities, you're back and forth to the psychiatrist. You're back and forth to the therapy. You're back and forth to getting their pills. You can't. There's no way you can work. There's just no way you can work in homeschool. That doesn't happen. And my husband didn't want me to work. And for me, my job with my children and are still my job. So now that both my children are adults, I still have to do those things. I still need to take them to their doctor, because with their disabilities, I can see that driving is not an option, especially for, when you have anxiety issues. My daughter has severe learning disabilities. That's not going to happen. And my son's anxiety issues, he can concentrate but on one thing at a time. So thank God for opportunities. Thank God for, programs that you can find in your state. My son was able to get his GED, and he started college 2 weeks ago. And all I can expect from him, I'm not going to expect him to get a job. I'm not going to expect him to drive a car. I want him to concentrate, take all his mental energy and concentrate on his school. So I am still taking care of my children. They're adults, but I still have a job, and a fulfilling one at that, because I'm raising my kids to be decent human beings, and that's exactly what I got, is decent human beings. They're not spoiled brats. They are considerate of others. They have kind hearts. Something they may not have gotten. I honestly don't think they would have gotten this at all if they went to public school where you have 2 teachers to 30 children. It's just not possible for them to teach individually. You're teaching as a whole, and the school politics system is horrible. And when you have a child with disabilities, they slip through the cracks. They get stuck in classes, like my daughter when she was in public school, with emotionally disturbed children, with behavioral problem children, coming home with black eyes. No. Coming home cursing, I'm not having that. So, no. I'm taking care of my own. And so, with that, and then with my son, they wanted to put him in kids because of the way the school system worked. He knew how to read 3-letter words, and then they wanted to put him the following year in kindergarten because of the way the system worked, to learn how to play with blocks for half a day. No. My children learned how to read, how to write, how to do arithmetic, arithmetic, my basic arithmetic. And my son, took longer than expected, but that's one of the beauties of homeschooling. You're not on a clock. You don't have to go by anybody else's system. You go at their pace. It took longer because of his mental disabilities, but he finally finished most of his work, at least what he needed to get into college, and he did his GED for the rest, and, now he's in college. Why? Because of me. Because that was my job. That was my purpose, was raising my kids. That was the most important thing in the whole world to me. Do I regret that I went to school? Not. I didn't go to school, not one iota, not one tiny fraction do I regret that I didn't go to college. In fact, seeing what my sister went through, seeing what my son's going through now, I mean, I don't know, maybe later on, maybe once he gets, he finishes college, maybe I will take a few classes, maybe I will get an associate's degree. I might be 60 by then. What does it matter? I'm 60. I might have another 10, 20 years after that. What does that matter if I didn't raise my own kids and they turned out to be horrible kids? They wound up in institutions, they wound up, in hospitals or whatever. What would all of that matter? My job, my purpose, and the way that I was raised, the most important thing to me was my children. So, I asked you, what's your purpose in life? What are you doing with your life? Not trying to down anybody, but just trying to say, don't let people make you feel bad because you didn't go to college, or maybe you're a housewife and you're taking care of your kids and your husband. If I don't have dinner ready on time for my husband, I feel like I'm not doing my job as a wife, I know it drives my daughter crazy, but I want that food to be ready when my husband comes home, I hate, like, now that I'm driving my son to school, I have to drive him at the time my husband's home from lunch. I hate that I don't see him for lunch, I hate if I can't be home in time to cook dinner. And I can't afford to buy food, bring home takeout anymore. So, hey babe, yay, we're home together for lunch. I wouldn't change that for anything in the world. Not one iota would I change that for anything in the world. Was being able to raise my kids, being able to be home for them, being able to be here for them. So don't let anybody make you feel bad about, oh, what do you do? What's your job? My job is being a mother and a housewife. And don't ever let anyone make you feel bad about that. So in life, I feel that a purpose is raising decent human beings. I just don't think it's worth it to try to have a job, a career, and children, Maybe you have, some people like me had to try work because they had no husbands. My grandma was kind of getting old, but she helped out when she could. I think that's a perfect thing. If you have someone in your family that you trust taking care of your kids while you work, then that would be perfect, because you know that your family, they're going to take care of your kid. But if you have a husband and you don't need to work because you want to raise, like I knew this one lady had, I think she had 8 kids, but her husband made like $100,000 a year. Hey, and she homeschooled her kids, Some women, their husbands had their own businesses, and they might have had to work weekends, but it was enough for them to be able to stay home with their kids, and that was important to their husbands, and that was important to them, and it was important to me. After what I went through with my firstborn, going from babysitter to babysitter to babysitter. One time she came in with a black guy, another time they were stealing her stuff. I just wasn't having that. I was not having that. So I was grateful that I found a man that had the same exact ideals as I did, and beliefs, and went to church, we worshiped God. I had my time of singing. It was one of the best, most fulfilling times of my life. And then I had my time of raising my kids and homeschooling them, and that was the most important and most fulfilling thing in my life. And right now the most important thing in my life is that I still take care of my kids, because they need me. It's a different thing. If they didn't have the mental illness, honey, fly the coop, honey, kick that eagle out of the nest. But that's not the deal. And I'm still here for my children, and I'm helping my son go to school so that he can become a productive, person in society, somebody who has a good heart, and a decent human being, and he's gonna, be a productive person, and who knows, maybe he will become a famous whatever director or whatever, or work in the movie industry, and will buy me a house and take care of me, role reversal. But I need to help him be the best person he can be, and there's no buses where I live, so I have to drive him, and it's been rough. It's been really, really rough. It's frustrating because, I didn't go to college, I'm not even going to college, but it feels that way because I have to help him. I have to drive him there, pick him up. No buses here. It's a half hour away. So literally, the closest bus is like 4 stops off the highway going towards, into Houston. So I just have to thank God for the opportunity that he's had since we moved here. There are no buses here, but if it wasn't for us moving here a year and a half ago, my son would not have these opportunities that we found, the services that we found here that are helping him to go to college. And, it'll be for 2 years, and after that, most likely he'll have to move in a dorm and go to down, I think, in upper northern Houston. I think they allow you to do that, go to, graduate school there or whatever. But that is my purpose. That is my job, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. So yeah, so just wanted to give you something from my heart, share with you. Don't let people make you feel bad. If you want to work, more power to you. I'm not saying you can't, but if you want to stay home and raise children, that's work. I think that's the harder than you go to work, you come home, you cook dinner, you relax. No, when you're raising children, it's a 24/7 job. So Don't let anyone ever tell you that you don't have a job just because you don't work. You work when you have children. And if you have children with mental disabilities, that is amplified. So, alright, I just wanted to give you something from my heart. Okay, love you all. Mwah. Bye.